Coaching and Consulting. And thank you so much for joining us in our mastermind for $10 million and above producers. Pretty fired up for today. Pre-pandemic, I had the privilege of traveling around the country, leading presentations, teaching and inspiring agents. And at the end of the day, what I'm always most passionate about is what we do after that mastermind. I like talking to agents of all levels. There's something really magical when I get in a room of what I call business owners. Agents historically 10 million above, 20 million, 100 million, 200 million. That is my sweet spot. That's the sweet spot of our coaching company. That's who we love hanging out with, coaching with, talking to, and helping them through what's going on in their business. Not to say we don't also incredibly enjoy getting new agents into production, but for me personally, like these masterminds is what I get most fired up about. So thank you so much for joining us today. We've got some really great guests that'll be coming on as well. We've got the amazing Katie DeWitt, my business partner here at Rieger Coaching Consulting. We've got Josh Cooley. There's Katie. Hello, Katie.
Hey.
Whoa, wow, all dressed up, looking good. I like it. We've got Josh Cooley. Josh is my business partner. He's the head coach here at RCC. So Josh has a team out of Eugene, Oregon. He's the #1 agent in Eugene, Oregon for closed units year after year. He's also our head coach, which means he coaches all of our other coaches, and he also is a coach as well. And last but not least, really fired up and excited to bring on Marcus Green. Marcus Green owns a series of brokerages. He's got a team that he runs from a different state than he lives in, and he also owns a company. And I don't think there's ever been more about VAs than there is now. So, Marcus, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me. Excited to spend some time with you guys.
So today's setup is a lot of you have sent in questions. I've got those written down in front of me. I truly want this to be a mastermind type forum. So best thing we can do is if all of you can type in any questions you have, and between Katie, Marcus, Josh, and myself, we're going to make sure that we take those questions and answer them for you. Start out with kind of a series of questions we've already received from a group of you. Typically struggles we also see with agents in that 10, 20, 50 plus $1 million range. So I'm going to free roll with those, and then Katie and the rest of the team just interrupt me as questions come in, because this is about you guys. You've got probably some huge wins going on in your business pre-pandemic, throughout the pandemic, and you probably have some struggles you were facing before the world changed, and maybe some different and new struggles you're facing now. And I want to use the next 45 minutes to an hour to really address those, share with you what we see working around the country, but I don't know what you need till you tell me. So type in questions in the chat bar. Does that sound good? Yay, fantastic. All right, I'm gonna get started with what's really the foundational pillar of RCC coaching, which is our version of the leverage model. So what is the leverage model? It's pretty simple. At the end of the day, every single agent in America, in my opinion, has a team. So I really chuckle when I'm in front of a group of folks and they're like, I don't have a team, I don't want a team, I don't like teams. And I'm like, totally get it. And that's what I love about this business owner. You can do whatever it is you want to do. But I do chuckle because at the end of the day, like every single agent that I've ever met has a team, whether they like it or not. And I'll draw that out for you. Hopefully you can see this board behind me. So you're the CEO of your company. What does that mean? Well, you get to choose, are you part of this webinar, or do you sleep in, or do you go golfing? You get to choose, do I work at ABC Realty or XYZ Realty? You get to choose, do I hire people? You get to choose, do I buy Zillow leads? Until recently, you got to choose, do I do opens or do I not? Like the CEO gets to make the decisions that lead the company forward, or sometimes they make the decisions that unfortunately keep or prevent the company from going forward. Bad, but just a reality, every single agent in America, you are the CEO of your company, whether you like it or not. The next role, Katie, can you guys read that?
That's
okay?
Great.
Fantastic. The next role, which I believe the most important role in the company is the listing role. It's the person or individual in your organization who goes out and takes listings, right? Your job is to show up at somebody's house, or maybe you're doing it via Zoom call, and to give a value proposition to somebody considering selling their property, and share with them why you're the best vehicle to help them reach their goals. I look at my market here in Portland, Oregon, we've got just over 11,000 agents in our local market. So any given day, in fact, one of my teammates 20 minutes ago sent a group text, hey, just got a listing signed. In my mind, I'm super happy for her, but in my mind, I'm even more excited because she just beat out 10,999 agents. Right? I don't know where that group came from. Like, I don't know if that lead was a sign call from months ago, her best friend from church, or maybe somebody she prospected. At the moment, I will find that out, but the moment that's irrelevant. She literally just beat out 10,909. Excuse me, that seller could have to choose her. The reason the listing role is the most role in the organization, it has the highest dollar per hour. What I mean by that, Marcus and Josh, I'd love you guys to chime in, is that most listing appointments on average go about an hour, 40 minutes, some take 2 hours. And as you show up at somebody's house, you go through your value proposition, you find out their goals, you create a for them. More times than not, you're leaving that meeting about an hour later. So Marcus, your team, which I think is in Arizona, is that correct?
Yep, that's right.
What's your average commission in Arizona for your team?
About
7,500, so a little lower than other parts of the country, a little higher than some. Certainly not Northern California, but it's 7,500. So I would argue that $7,500 commission, half of it, Marcus, has made it the listing appointment. Right, if I'm on your team in Arizona, I go on a listing appointment this afternoon, and I leave with a signed contract, I'm going to argue I just made $3,250.
Absolutely.
$3,750. Whatever.
Somewhere right there.
Yeah, we're at $3,750. And I'm not saying there's not a ton of things to do to get that property in the market, to get it sold, to deal with multiple offers, to deal with showings and staging. There's a ton of work left to be done. But can't we all agree that none of that work is relevant unless we first go and get that listing contract signed? So isn't it a pretty crazy business that we can go from making, so if I break that down and one of your agents goes on appointment tonight, they literally just made $3,750 an hour, or at least they brought that into the company at whole. And what most agents will do is they'll then drive back to their office, or maybe at this point their home office, and they'll start calling stagers. Maybe they're doing a perfection. They'll start working on getting the photographer over there. They'll start working on inputting it to the multi-listing. Right? These are all activities that need to be accomplished. But at the end of the day, those activities are not worth $3,750 an hour. Could we all agree with that? So I just think like starting a mastermind with this conversation. I think most of us go in this business because we love sales, we love people, we love the perceived flexibility of being self-employed, we love houses. Like, we go into it for all these reasons, and we don't recognize at the end of the day, there's some activities we can do that are literally worth $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 an hour. And there's other activities we can do that are worth maybe $10, $15, $25 an hour. So Katie, what do you pay your administrative assistant per hour?
$14.
$14 an hour. So that's the going rate in Eugene, Oregon. Yeah. Do you like him or her?
I do.
Do they do a great job?
She does.
Fantastic. We're going to talk more about that with Marcus and what he's doing to adapt. And he's been doing for several years prior to the pandemic. For a long time, he's a pioneer in virtual help. But regardless, the next role of every business is there's an administrative side of the company. The CEO makes the decisions. The listing agent goes out and gets listings signed and is often making $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000. My average commission in Portland, Oregon right now is about $12,000. So Marcus, when we go and get a listing for us, that's worth about $6,000 of the gross commission in that 1 hour it takes us in our home to get the listing contract signed. We then drive back at this point to our home office. We do some administrative side of the company, and he or she starts working on the back end. And as Katie shared in her market, that's $13, $14 an hour. In my market here in Portland, Oregon, that's about $17 or $18 an hour. But that is a very different job. It's a very different skill set than being the CEO in the listing. Would you guys agree with that? We're bad, but just in reality, like, where are we spending our time and energy? So often in my career, I'd go home after working like 12-hour days and I'd be totally exhausted. And I wasn't really sure in the back of my mind if I moved the needle or not. And the reality is I was not the best admin of my own company. And so I would spend all this time and energy like pushing through those activities I didn't really want to push through. And it was keeping me away from really where I love to hang out, which is dominating and crushing the listing market. So we've got the listing team, we've got the admin team, and then of course, lastly, we got the buyers team. And I want to be really clear, I'm not advocating for anybody whatsoever to build a team. This is not a team-centric mastermind that I want to lead today. What I do want every single participant to be 100% clear on is where do you spend your time and what are your dollar per hour activities around it. So I go to the buyers team at showing agent. In my opinion, showing homes, knowing what you're doing, knowing the neighborhood, the answer to the question the buyer asks, having the ability to quickly go and find the answer and get back with them, knowing what's going on, knowing what market conditions are, knowing what inventory is, having the ability to call a listing agent and ask intelligent questions. I think showing homes is worth about 25 to 50 bucks an hour. I really do. I mean, we have some buyers, of course, that look at 2 or 3 properties, get into contract, fantastic. And reality is there's some buyers that will look at 10, 20, 30, 40 properties, or heck, even in the market we're in, we might have buyers look at 3 properties, make an offer, and lose to multiple offers. And over the next couple of weeks, you're in dialogue, you're showing them a few more homes, they find another one. There's buyers losing, motivated, strong buyers right now losing 3, 4, or 5 times to multiple offer situations, especially under that $400,000 price point in our market. Takes a lot of time to show homes, and I'm not sure that opening doors is what I would call surgery. This is definitely surgery, right? This is the surgeon of the organization. This is the nurse of the organization. The surgeon is the list, and the surgeon is the buyer's agent. And the admin team is what here at RCC we like to call our nurses. We've got a team of the best trained nurses on the planet that when you go and get a listing or get a buyer under contract, they're going to handle all of that back end work. Marcus, have you or anyone you loved ever unfortunately spent some time in a hospital?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it just happens, right?
Yeah.
And what happened? You went to the hospital and the doctor probably like fixed your appendix or reset your broken leg or did something which was in some form of a surgery type procedure for you or your family member. And there was this extended stay to see how you're recovering. Who took care of you through the extended stay?
Yeah, so I'm thinking of my mom was in the hospital for over a month with a brain aneurysm, and we're constantly checking on her signs, all those things, and the surgeon only was the most impactful thing to save her life, but it was the nurses that maintained all that behind her.
Yeah, it's almost challenging. Like for somebody like your mom or my daughter went through, you don't even get to sleep. And what I mean by that, like the nurses are so on top of what's going on, what your condition is, how you're doing, while you're trying to sleep. And I'm sleeping next to my daughter in the hospital room. They're coming in every hour, waking her up, checking on her, making sure everything is heading in the right direction. And clear is the surgeon does not disappear from the situation. Right, the nurses are taking care of the patient with all of that back end work, and they're really good and they're really specialized and they're really awesome. But the surgeon is still coming in. They're reading the charts in 12 to 24 hours. By the way, if there's a fire or complications, are coming in much more frequent, and they're giving advice and saying, okay, based on what's happened, here's what I think we should do next. Here we're heading, and then it goes back to the nurses taking care of you. So surgeons don't disappear from the equation. They just let the nurses do the nurse work, and the surgeons step in and do the surgery.
So the nurses have been trained on tracking specific vital signs, right? If you watch a nurse come into the room, there is a rhythm and cadence to what they're doing. It's not that they're just like, hey, how are you feeling today? They do ask that question, but while they're asking that question, they're checking specific vital signs that they've been trained on. And if the vital sign readings come back to some reading, they know to re-engage the surgeon or the doctor at that point, right? So, I mean, to apply this to our businesses, what are the vital signs within our organization that those nurses or administrative teams should be monitoring almost hourly? And then they know the triggers of, okay, when it hits this, I get my team or the mega agent or the listing agent or whoever involved.
I love that, Marcus. It seems silly years ago when I first started putting this together. I was like, we're really just running a hospital. What we're doing is we're running a business, and lo and behold, a hospital runs just like a really good mega team does. So to finish this up, we got the buyer's team, we got the showing agent. So we have CEO, listing agent, $3,000 to $10,000 an hour, depending on your price point. Administrative side of the organization, $13 to $30 an hour, depending what's going on in your market, their skill set. Marcus has a really good, he's going to talk about that in a little bit. We've got the showing agent, probably 25 to 50 bucks an hour. And then we've got the buyer, the buyer's agent. And that buyer's agent, in my opinion, is probably making $500 to $2,000 an hour. So Katie, I go and show you properties for the last few weeks. Finally find a home you like. When you find a home you like, what's a natural question you're going to ask me?
Today.
Today, what can I get it for? How much money to put down? If I'm competing against multiple offers, how aggressive do I have to come in? Craig, can you save me money? Do you think we can lowball them? Right? Don't all of those questions come up after you find a home you like? Perfect. So that's where the buyer's agent, and he or she is the one that will start answering questions, reaching out to the listing agent, looking at recent sales and comparables, and helping guide you to reach your goals. And in my opinion, that's worth about $500 to $2,000 an hour. So when agents share with me, like, I don't want a team, I don't like teams, I'm like, dude, you're a team. Whether you like it or not, if you're an individual agent, you have these 5 roles. And every role, without question, has a different pay scale. I'd also argue every role has a different skill set. Like, I'm not a great buyer's agent. I mean, I love negotiating. I give amazing customer service. When I say I'm not a great buyer's agent, my DNA is I'm super fast moving. And for that buyer that wants to see 20 or 30 homes and sleep on every single one of them, like, I really respect that's what they want, but I just want to pull my hair out. But on the flip side, if I can show up for a list and convince them my value proposition is the best vehicle to help them reach their goals out of the 11,000 agents in Portland, Oregon, and they sign a contract with me, that's where my DNA is. So when I say different skill set, I mean, it would be physically impossible for every single one of us that does all 5 roles to get just as excited and be just as talented in every single role. And that's okay. We can absolutely do it. You don't have to start a team. I'm not advocating starting a team, but at the end of the day, be clear that if you're, where are you spending your time and where do you get the highest return? Katie, have any questions come in yet?
Yeah, great question from Jake. Oh, where did I go? Commission discount competitors. So just kind of jumping the gun on this, which we can address a little bit later too, but commission discount competitors, tech disruptions, anti-realtor companies, and consumer mentality. So we're on the 3 biggest issues with those.
Jake? Jake, thank you. It's a great question. Here's what I'd say is stop caring. And what I mean by that is find the motivated. Right, at the end of the day, here's what really sucks is you have one listing appointment this week, not you, Jake, but maybe another agent does. You've got one listing appointment this week. You go on it, super excited, you do a ton of prep work, and you get there. Maybe it happens on the phone before you get there, maybe it happens when you get there, and they're like, oh, we just interviewed X Realty, and they're only charging us 1%. It's a tech company, maybe it's a discount brokerage. At the end of the day, and you're kind of tapped in this box, you're like, well, that sucks. And you do your best to give your value proposition, and maybe you win or maybe you don't. Most agents face is that was their one listing opportunity this week, and in many cases, their one listing opportunity this month. What I want to do is help you build a business where you have so many at-bats, and Marcus and Josh and I are going to get super deep into this in the second half of today's call. I want to help you build a business where you've got an abundance of leads coming in, period. And out of that abundance of leads, there will be some people that aren't motivated. There will be some people who are jerks, or some people who will be more attracted to a different model than it is what you offer. And you'll do your best to convince them your value proposition is the right vehicle to use. And if they don't accept that, you're totally fine with it, because you know you're still going to list somebody else's house tomorrow at the commission you want, at the terms you want, at the price you want, period. So yeah, that's out there. It's becoming it's becoming really prevalent in our industry, and the pandemic has slowed it down. I saw yesterday that Zillow is back offering in 5 markets. As of yesterday, they'd shut down in. That's great, but that's still a fractional part of the business. All I can do is focus on my activities, focus on my value proposition, and where you're gonna win. you're going to win, period. We're not going to be put out of business. Marcus, what would you add to that?
I mean, I think you're spot on. I think there's two pieces to this is, like you said, we have to find the motivated. If we can find the motivated in the moment, then it's overwhelming them with your value proposition with their current need. But I think the other way to combat this is there's really three segments to a real estate transaction. There's the lead generation, there's the lead nurturing, and then there's the contract to close. Well, most people are making a decision on who to hire to help them facilitate a real estate transaction right before a contract to close. They're entering into a mode of like, I need someone now. I just got a job transfer. We just found out we're having a baby, whatever it is. So we got to find the motivated people there. And I think the other piece we need to do is not neglect our database. If we do a great job of leaning into our database prior to the decision-making moment, by the time they come into the decision-making moment, all those discounters like Zillow, Opendoor, they walk into it with earmuffs on because Craig's been building value with me for the last year. I don't even need to ask the question, what are the other options out there? I think where we run at risk of losing to the discount brokerages is if we neglect our database early on and we wait for them to get in the decision-making mode. And now they're saying, oh yeah, I remember Marcus from before, but now I've got these other options to consider as well. Let me compare them. But if I did a great job with the database up front, there is nothing to be had. They know what my value is. And I've been stacking it for the last several years or months in preparation for that decision moment.
Yeah, I totally agree. The database is actually second on my list. And by the way, so let's just jump in that segue with what I really want you to come and share is database lives right here, ladies and gentlemen. Database lives with admin. It just does. There's a reason, like Katie, you've got really messy writing, and you've got this mastermind. I don't want to come in, right? All of my admin is suddenly, I've got nobody to come and help make Craig look, team of really good people I pay for that would come in, get me organized, get me set up. All of that is gone, but I still have that ability to have my administrative side of the company do certain things for me. One of those things they do day in, day out, pre-pandemic, during the pandemic, and whatever the world holds in the future, is they're telling me what the notes are on that person, numbers for me. They are doing client touches. We went from, as a team, because I do lead a sales team, and somebody on this call, Andrew, if she wants to type it in, I think we put like 67 homes in contract since the pandemic started. I'm not the biggest invest team. There's people totally blowing those numbers away. Homes in contract over the last like 89. We're proud of what we're doing. And Marcus, the key to that's been our database. We're touching our database 2.5 times a month prior to the pandemic. And since then, we've been touching our database twice a week during the pandemic. Letting them know where the opportunities in the market are. And that to me is the sole reason why we're actually having an increase in productivity. But all of that is being led by the admin team. The reason based in the first place is the admin of their own company. They just don't. Like, they went in, they're so excited they sold a home or listed a home, and whatever brokerage they're at, they've got it. It is physically impossible to get paid unless you turn it out.
Yes.
Yeah, there's certain things. It is physically impossible to put a house in to sell a house through the MLS unless somebody enters it into the MLS. And that's the administrator. Most agents will do certain administrative things they're forced to do to move their business forward or complete the business they have. But what they won't do is they won't do the one thing that will drive business to them, or as you said, will help be the protector against the disruption of brokerages, which is communicate with their database on a consistent level. That's it. So what do you guys do, Marcus? A virtual business for many years. That's one of the reasons. It's the main reason I have on our call today is that, right, you're leading the way in what we've all just been forced into. So tell us about that journey, please.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for asking. I mean, it's interesting that the last 6 weeks, the whole world has been forced to move virtually, where a lot of my different businesses, and you mentioned up front, I've got several different businesses that I run on brokerages and title companies and property management companies and development companies. All those pieces, there was that, if you look at that org chart you just drew, each one has a very similar org chart with a lot of administrative tasks that need to be happening. And what really drove me moving to a more virtual world is I started feeling overwhelmed personally. Like I was, and a lot of people on this call probably can resonate that you get to the end of the day and you're just like, I am burnt. I am overwhelmed. I can't do more. And I did what I call my hats exercise, which was me drawing the organizational chart and saying, well, let me look back at my activities for the day. How often was I wearing the CEO hat versus the administrative hat? How often was I wearing the listing agent hat versus the buyer's agent hat? And I started to identify that a good chunk of my day was being spent on lower dollar productive activities because they were fires. They were coming up and I could jump on them, I could handle them, and I could move them forward. But my dollar per hour worth in that moment was very, very low. And by saying yes to that $12 an hour job, I was saying no to that $3,500 an hour job that needed to be done, putting out that fire. And so as I started looking at it, saying that there's got to be a way for me to leverage activities in my world to free me up to do higher dollar productive activities and do it at price. We got to remember the whole purpose of being in business is not to do more business, it's to drive more profitability. It's about the net profit. It's not about the gross profit. So the whole idea behind this is not, and right now a lot of top teams are looking at how do I cut expenses. It's not necessarily about how to cut all of it, increase my revenue, and then get more out of the expenses that I'm spending, right? And so for me, as I started virtual leverage, this was about almost 4 years ago that I started my journey looking at hiring my first virtual assistant. And it was, it's kind of been a sexy word in our industry for a long time. And there are incredible stories of people learning to leverage virtually that have blown it up. And then there are a lot of horror stories of like, I tried that, it was horrible. I went on a journey to say, well, between the agent that's crushing it virtually versus all these horror stories I'm hearing around virtual leverage. And as I went through this process and hired my first virtual assistant, which I think she'll attest to this, I made a mistake in the book as a leader to a virtual person, and she was patient enough with me to leverage better. And it's kind of escalated over time to where we created Exec Assist, which is another company, to help agents close that gap of how to virtually leverage their business without making the same mistakes that I made that first year of virtually leveraging my businesses.
Awesome. So what's your recommendation for somebody that doesn't have leverage, or maybe they have leverage, or what you see a lot of people that have success with virtual leverage, there's probably a bigger group that have not had success with it. I would argue the assistant to work next to you in your office. There's a group that's like, that changed my life, and there's another group like, that was horrible, I'm never doing that again. It's just, leadership is a different skill. It's so CEO level, that's a difference all salespeople have mastered. It's a journey as well. So if I want to get into the virtual leverage business, and I did not, honestly, prior to this, we have a VA on our team. I haven't spent a whole lot of time or energy with her over the last 5 years. And I'll share you, in the last 30, 60 days, I've become muching what she does, what we're paying her, what her activities are, what her are, because it's the direction that we're all heading. And it's something I need to tap in and master instead of having my blinders on. So for somebody like myself, Marcus, what's the best advice you'd have on how to get started?
Yeah, good question. And before I answer that, let me be clear that while I'm talking about Exec Assist, this is sales pitch in any way. Talk about it in a way that you can recreate what I've done without utilizing Exec Assist. But I'll tell you what I found is the consistent theme of why people fail with virtual leverage is the same reason they fail with leading someone in their office. And it's the truth of the matter is, the real estate agents and have a high skill set for being a great real estate agent. We don't have the skill set to be great accountability leaders, holding people accountable, setting standards and expectations, a constant cadence of that communication to help that person that's an administrator who needs to thrive at a high level. And so basically what we've discovered with Exec Assist is by hiring an Exec Assist virtual assistant, you're in essence hiring a director of operations and the virtual assistant at the same time, because there needed to be that person between the agent and the virtual assistant that knows the real estate game. They can ask the right questions to the mega agent. What is the vision of your organization compared to everybody else? And now how do we take what's in your mind and systematize it to where the virtual assistant can run it at a high level? And that VA, even though they are talking to the mega agent on a regular basis, they're also talking to that director of operations, which Tanya Mosgrove's on the call with us today. She is the director of operations of ExecAssist, where she's meeting with those and doing a daily huddle with all of our VAs every single day of, hey, Jackie, how are you progressing Craig's business today? Are we clear on the priorities from Craig on what's most important inside of their business? And so we're customizing that experience, which is very different than like the My Out desks and the other opportunities out there where they're basically saying, hey, you want a VA? Yep, we'll find one for you, but you got to train them. You got to hold them accountable. So perspective, the trick is this. Number one is an agent's got to get clarity on what is the highest dollar productive activity within my business. I need to focus on that. What are the low dollar productive activities that must be done that are keeping me from doing either the higher dollar productive activities in my life, or I'm sitting on a couch at home while my kids are playing around me with my kids and entering stuff on the MLS. That to me takes priority over a lower dollar activity too, even though it doesn't have a productive activity or a dollar associated with it. So as soon as you identify those pieces, you can give them away.
Marcus, can I jump in really quick?
Please do.
I love what you just shared. Number two is get really higher dollar per hour activities and get rid of the other activities. And you shared it earlier on with the different hats you're wearing. So here's one of the activities that we ask every single manager you come to do at some point is 10 days as you're driving around, as you're working, I want you on your phone or on a yellow pad, I want you to write down every single activity you do. Showed a home, negotiate a contract, pulled comps, entered a home into the multiple listing. Whatever, just write them all down on a sheet of paper in your phone. And over the next 7 to 10 days, complete that and then put them into groups. Showing homes, listing homes, securing new clients, administrative side. And what I want you to finally do with that list is I want you to highlight, circle in blue, put a pink star, anything that you don't ever want to do again. Most of us will not highlight, I never want to sign another listing contract. Most of us, some people have a business and have it fully leveraged. That's awesome. We've got agents there that are, most of us are not going to say negotiate multiple offers for a seller. Most of us in this industry, and so why don't we make a list of all the things we don't want to do? And at the end of it, what we've just created is called a description. Simple. It's like people are like, oh, like this company has this job description and I found this online. And that, great. But at the end of the day, why don't you don't like doing and pay someone else to do them? It's called a job description. What we'll find out of that list is most of those activities on that list are worth about $15 an hour, or if they're going to be able to get some of them over to the VA, what do you guys charge an hour for VA at your company on average?
Depending on what they want, and we've got different levels of services, anywhere between $5 to $8 an hour for really top talent, and that includes that director of operations that helps with the accountability and the VA.
It's amazing. So what you've really done is you've taken my list of things I don't ever want to do again, and probably a vast majority of those can be done for $5 to $8 an hour. What I also really like is you put the separation, the agents and the virtual assistant with that director of ops. You've essentially done what I'm already paying to do. Because I've got, in my org chart, we have a lot of these administrative levels. We have transaction coordinators, listing coordinators, director of operations. We've just built, over time, a large organization. And I've separated myself from my VA because my director of talking to him or her. And what you've done is you just included that into your package. And said, hey, talk to the director of ops, and he or she will also make sure or be an integral part of making sure that the VA is getting done what you need them to get done.
Exactly. I see Katie raising a hand there.
Yeah. Well, Craig, that's so important to go back to that list of what are you doing? The people that are on this call right now, you guys are the mega agents, right? Like this is a private room for really big producers. So hopefully, I'm assuming a lot of you guys have talent. You guys already have a team going. So I think it's good, especially in this time when we're separated, to really go back to the basics and say, what am I still doing? What jobs did I take back over the years or the months or even during the pandemic when you say, I don't want to text that person, I'm just going to do it. So I think that going back to that rudimentary list of like, did you just input something to MLS? Did you just make a flyer? Did you respond to a text after 5 p.m.? Going back and seeing who in your world is doing what. And then two, But I mean, I own multiple real estate offices. I run and own them. I have a really large sales team, and like I am at ground zero with VA. So I know, like, I think that a lot of like when I coach a lot of megas, we don't know a lot about this virtual help. And right now, a lot of these questions are like, how do you find them? How do you train them? And to me, that's really intimidating, right? Like I'm still boots on the ground. I want to go meet someone and talk to them. So how does that work? And when you're talking about like a direct ops, like that's a second hub within your company, or how does that work?
Oh, it's not just this. So Tanya Mosgrove's on the call too, so if she can attest to this. Basically, we take over the whole piece. The very first piece would be an introduction to Tanya and for the two people that run Executive Assist for me. And by the way, they've been entrenched in real estate for years and run some of the top teams across the country. And ultimately, when I shared that vision with them of what I accomplished, I was able to get in business with them. So they've got very deep real estate knowledge of how to run a meeting. And the first thing they'll do is they'll come in and do a one-on-one consult to say, what is your vision? What are you trying to accomplish? What have you done so far? What does that look like? And they'll guide them through to get a picture of where their business is now. And then they'll come back with a recommendation to say, this is where we would want to start in your business to get operating at a higher level. A lot of times it's really surprising, but a lot of them don't have an organized functional database, and part of that.
You're saying megas don't have an organized database?
They'll say they do until you ask a couple questions. They're like, oh, I don't really, right? Sometimes it's that they don't want to do it, and sometimes it's they don't know how to. And so we don't say, how do you want this done? We actually coach the mega agent of, this is how other top teams, how we recommend setting up your database. Now the mega agent said, yep, and then we get in there and we organize all, create it all. Tanya, did you have a comment to that?
Yeah, so I think it's important to note that Sabrina and I are not coming in cold. Actually ran a level 7 KW team in Central Illinois with a $145,000 price point and sold 300 homes a year. And that was pure database business. And I ran an entire operational hub. And I've also worked in expansion. And so when having conversations, which we call our discovery calls with agents, really it's almost like a team leader call or a brokerage call, in that what pain point, what would make this a win a year from now? What are you most scared to let go of? And how do you engage with the people that know and love you? And so I loved what Craig said about the 2.5 times a month prior to COVID, 2 times a week. We're very structured from ground level, 10-hour-a-week VAs, where we're coming in and saying, this is how we're going to communicate. And then we just level that on up. And to answer your question, Katie, we do a lot around disc profile, and we also use the KPA in the Keller Williams world. Rena and I are hiring virtual assistants, taking them through that whole process, and then we're matchmaking behavioral style and person to the agent and or team, because it has to be the right fit. It has to be somebody that you can partner with and really, pull back and forth with.
That's awesome. So you guys really, what I'm hearing, Tanya, is that you guys have a very sophisticated, detailed onboarding system.
Yeah.
Cross training, which is nice too, because we all know there can be, even though a lot of our VAs have been with us for years now, there can be a rotation of administrative people, almost even more so in an in-office admin. But we have that we never miss a beat on an agent's team, because our director of operations are aware of what's going on within organization.
Love it.
I saw a question in here around, do you suggest having a VA for your social media? I would say yes, for in most instances, but again, we want to tailor that experience for that agent on what you're comfortable with. So we put together full social media campaigns. We handle all the database, we handle all lead generation, Facebook targeted ads. But a lot of that will be learned in that initial consultation interview with you of what is most important to you that we can take off your plate and get you focused on more important things, higher dollar productive activity, your personal hobbies and family time.
I love it. Well, let's do this. I know you guys are offering some specials, some free consultations for anybody in today's call. and a lot of coming up on that. So maybe type those in the notes. And I think we're going to, over the next 30 minutes or so till we wrap up, we'll keep circling back to this part of the conversation. But let's go to building this organization, right? So what happens? An agent gets into business and they get super successful, right? They're just crushing it. When they're crushing it, and Josh, I hope you can get your video on, because you're the master of this. When they're crushing it, what happens to them is all of a sudden they're super happy with the amount of business they're having, but where do they start getting unhappy?
When did the agent start getting unhappy?
Yeah, so if you have a really big business, and where are you normally suffering on the other side of that?
Hiring the wrong people, taking jobs back, not setting a clear vision, not setting expectations, not holding people accountable, tell me when to stop.
All the above, and I would add to it, you're unhappy with your wife, your partner, your dog, your grandma, is that people get into massive prison, and they went into this industry for the flexibility and and they end up having what we often see is not a good quality of life. Yes or no?
Absolutely true.
Perfect. So then the next is we want to go out if they're rich. And I think the biggest mistake agents make when they're looking for leverage is they go and hire a buyer's agent. And what I mean by that is it totally naturally makes sense. Like, geez, if I get a buyer's agent, buyers are amazing, but they take so much damn time that they totally exhaust. And then I get home at 7 o'clock at night, and now I've got all of my pay to do, and I've got to turn in that listing, and you have working till 10 or 11 o'clock tonight. And so they're that. Buyer's agents are super many critters. They just are. If you get a buyer's agent, and if they're actually successful, they're opening a ton of transactions. If they're opening a ton of transactions, do you have more or less fires?
Oh, more.
Yeah, of course you do. And so it's like, and if you're the biggest firefighter in your company, who's putting out those fires? You are. So you hire an agent, he or she is successful, and you're now spending more time than you've ever spent before being the admin of your own company. Isn't that craziness? So we know the first is going to be living here on this administrative side, and where and brilliant leaders like Mark mindset is I was that belly to belly. I want them sitting across the hall from me, and that's no. It's a great model, and I'm definitely moving my business, or at least segments of it, to the virtual model. Right? There's some activities absolutely can be done. In some cases, probably better than the people. It can be done virtually and for less money. I love it. So if we take certain things off of our plate, like coordinating, listing feedback, calling inspectors, database touches, if we take things off of our plates, that gives us more free time. If we have more free time, by default, will we do
Absolutely.
more business? Okay, if we hire somebody like Marcus's company to touch our database 2 times a month, 3 times a month, in a message, I want to learn about you. I want to learn how you communicate with people in your world. I want to learn what your value proposition is. And if we pay somebody, whether that's an in the office virtual leverage, and we touch our database more, well, first off, it's got to get our database up and running, period. And then we get it up and running more often, will our business go up or down? It goes vertical. And at that point, we're kind of back to where we were. It's like there's this honeymoon phase, higher talent. We're like, wow, I've got so much. And then all of a sudden, what the talent does is I think people make a mistake, and they think the talent is only supposed to do activities like transaction coordinating. And the talent is absolutely supposed to be doing activities like touching the database in our name, in our personality, in our voice. And when those things have business skyrockets, and then skyrockets, we go back to, wow, this is really amazing, but I'm back to working 13. And then very simply, what's the next hire? That would be for another VA, another admin, or most likely, I would argue, a showing agent or buyer's agent. And
well, I'm thinking of the average production on this call is about 50 million. So we keep talking about database versus a lot of agents, at least what I am used to, is they're paying for a lot of leads. So what does that look like, database versus cold calling, and that they're paying for?
Well, I think it goes back to Marcus's point and Jake's question. So, and by the way, we pay for leads on my team, money. We call not as aggressively as we were pre-pandemic, do some form of cold calling with expireds and our leg of our business has, and until the day somebody gets remain my database. And what I'm going to find from it's the least expensive lead. They know me, they love me, my team crushed it for them. And well, what's the stats? NAR stats. 90%, approximately 90% of home buyers interviewed by NAR said I had a great experience, I'll use my agent again. 90%. As an industry, we're freaking killing it. And in what percentage of home sellers actually use the same agent 2, 3, 5, 7 years later? Does anyone know that answer?
11%. Yeah.
Yeah, some years I see it up to 13. I've seen it as low as like 9, but for round numbers, we went from 9 out of 10, all brands in our industry, of consumers saying, you're awesome, Josh Cooley, I'll use you again, to less than 2 out of 10 when it comes time to do their next real estate transaction using us again.
Yeah, and those are painful. I think a really clear metric, Katie, to follow is the 50-50 business. 50% listings, 50% buyers, 50% mets, and 50% haven't mets. That's the trajectory of it. And people would argue, I want all referral business from my database. I would argue back, if you have 75% business from your database and only 25 on the haven't mets, activities around the listings and the business you have to get the haven't mets, you're wasting business. And I've gone pants on it, but if you're seeking the ultimate business at the top level, that 50-50 is a great way to send to a director of ops and say, this is what I want.
And honestly, if I can jump in here, that's exactly what we do. During discovery, the one thing I say is your sister, your neighbor, the person that just bought a house 30 days ago doesn't need to know about every open house, every just listed. They need to know about you, who you are, what matters to you, and we have to provide value. There is a very different conversation with people you don't know yet. And it's being systematic, but also it's not just about the touches, like we can send emails, we can have automated smart plans, but agents have to get in and get dirty, which means that if these are the people that are raising their email, they click through the email, they're responding, you got to take that. That's low hanging fruit. So it becomes that your admin team is providing all, and the agents have to take that once the data comes back to them.
Love it. And we'll come back when it's properly touched. So Josh, let's move over to accountability.
Yeah.
Marcus as well. You guys are leading really big, multiple businesses. Look like in general on your team and specifically during the pandemic. I'm a buyer's agent on your team. Talking to me, what are we going over? What are those conversations?
Every single day we meet twice on Zoom, and everyone's got a goal on the team, and we've broken that goal down to ratios. Right? It's pretty simple in that. Are we making our contacts? What kind of the leads that come in, every lead tracking. So every lead that comes in, how many of those leads were contacted? Like, did you talk to them? That helps the marketing director look at where lead flow is coming from and what we're spending and make decisions on, do we want more of this lead or less of this lead? So accountability is built in with awesome people that all want to win. And literally the system holdable, because if the marketing person isn't getting good data from the sales team on the tracking that no one wants to ever do, it seems like, getting their information, they can't do their job at the highest level. And the sales team wants the best leads communicated at a high level. It's a very natural conversation. It was 1 year of doing daily huddles where we would stand around and go, do we need an agenda for this thing? What are we talking about? Some days we'd tell jokes. Some days the mood was funky. But I'll tell you what, when the pandemic started and we got on these calls, I'm glad we'd been doing those stand-ups for the last 5 years and having those conversations, because that's what kept us just straight going. We realized we've already been tracking and having the conversations to keep us accountable even at home. So the system, the teamwork, the people, you can't fake that.
How long is your morning huddle, Cooley?
Anywhere. Well, it depends on how good Kate's jokes are. What do you do if you're attacked by a group of clowns?
No idea.
You go for the juggler. Anyway, yeah, we've been getting a couple of those from Kate every day. So anywhere between 15 minutes minutes to 45 stations kind of lead into the next. So if Brian comes in and says, hey, I've got 5 listings coming up this week, marketing's going, the admin team's going, all right, we need to get some listing contracts ready, looking at their schedule, starting to schedule this stuff. Every word anyone speaks on the team triggers someone else to do an activity.
What does participation look like? Because your team is very productive. There's home inspections, appraisals, listing appointments. Is in that 15 to 45 minute Zoom call, are people participating, or is it like 50% of the team shows up?
Every time, and if someone's gone and they'll say, I've got a root canal, an emergency root canal, I can't make it, and we'll be like, you're gonna make it, take your phone in there. Just kidding. I think we've had 2 people miss the entire time.
Yeah, there's a standard. Our team is very similar. We're down to 1 a day. We're doing 3 a day at the beginning of the pandemic, and we've got it down to 1 a day. So we are 8:30 to 9 every single morning, period, starts and ends on time. And then we have our accountability one-on-one with every single agent. That's Tuesdays between 9 and noon. And on Tuesdays at 1 o'clock, 100% participation. We've got a team meeting with our organization. So all in all, it's probably about 5 hours a week of one-on-one accountability, Zoom meetings, and a team meeting to look at the metrics, where are we at, where are we going, and what's our message. And that's literally at this point in time, and it's taken a long time to get there, but that's what it takes to lead my company forward, is about 5 hours. There's some weeks there's trauma. There's some weeks that personally or professionally, somebody in the organization needs a lot of extra time. But for the most part, it's about 5 hours a week to lead my company. But the key, I believe, to the topic of Lon's accountability is you cannot miss those. Mega agents are famous for missing those. And it's no different than Marcus was saying. It's like, there's people that win and lose with VAs. There's people win and lose when they. At the end of the day, if you don't show up for your leadership meetings because you're so busy or you've got an important listing appointment, what you're really telling the entire organization is my business is more important than yours. And the moment that you're saying that, even if it's subconscious, the team is picking up on it. They stop showing up, and you may have a successful team, but I would argue at a very high level, your team is not as successful as has the ability to be. Marcus, what does accountability look like with one of your businesses? What are you doing?
Great. I think this is such an important topic. Early in the conversation today, we were talking about highest dollar productive activities. With this group, with the production that this group is doing, this is arguably the highest dollar productive activity you will do as the CEO of your organization, is the accountability conversation. And accountability really can result in one of 2 things. It can result in burnout if it's from not a leadership standpoint. If it's just like hit your numbers. But if you can tie their numbers and their specific lead measures to the why, that's where you're going to create that leadership relationship, create a long-term relationship. One of the questions that was posted earlier was, how do you keep retention on your team where you're not just turning over buyer's agents? In my opinion, this is how you create retention. Yes. Is if you can ask the questions in a way as a leader of how are you showing up with the measures that you told me were important to you? And if they're consistently not saying, oh, well, you're dead to me, but it's meriting a deeper conversation and going back to the initial needs analysis of why they joined the team. Remember when we first met, you told me these because of 1, 2, 3. Has something changed in your world that has made 1, 2, 3 not important to you anymore? Because your activities are not a result right now. So let's make sure that nothing's changed from that why. And if it hasn't, let's go back to the activities. Can we recommit to the activities? Now are you missing a system, a tool, a model, a skill, a relationship, a habit that is keeping you from doing them? So we think a lot of times, and I fall into this category too, is I think I can just show up, teach a class, be really charismatic, and think, oh shit, my leadership showed up. But that is not what creates long-term relationships. It's the accountability conversations consistently and on a good cadence, from my perspective.
So correct, and so hard to learn that. It's like you have to experience it. You can tell people over and over again. The only salespeople that have left my team didn't want to work as hard as they said they did on day one. Got 2 sales agents on the team last year that made $200,000. One of them's been on the team for 7 years. there's a vision for her. Anyone on the team that comes in, there's a bigger vision for them in the future and opportunity. So if you hire the right person and hold them accountable, talent wants accountability. Again, it's a natural move. You force people to do work they're not doing.
I believe what both of you are doing, I don't believe it, I know it because I know both of you so well, is that this is it's a paradigm agents. And Katie, I appreciate that the average production on this call is 50 million. That's great. We coach people that do 300 million. That's great too. But if you've got turn and burn with your clients, if you've got turn and burn with your team, like, I don't care if somebody, I've done it. I've done 70, 80, 90 million and hired 20 people a year and lost 16 in my organization. It was on paper, like I'm on stage as some superstar, and internally I felt like a piece of shit. So like, to me, it's not about the number. Sorry, Josh, I know that got you excited. The reality is it is about the retention. And the reason you guys have such great retention, here's the paradigm shift. The people in your organization are more important to you than your own personal. That's it, right? Like, I want to be in production. I listed this ago. I'm not listing a ton of homes, but I love taking a few listings a month and staying in production. But I wake up every single day with one singular goal: to help the people in my businesses reach their goals. And when you do that, and you come from, and that literally comes from your heart and your mouth and your activities and your consistency of showing up for them, they never leave you. They absolutely never leave you. They just won't. Why would they? Okay. What do you got?
Just great points. I think you're nailing it.
Sorry about the S word. All right, moving on. Well, retention and culture was a big piece of it. And I think the next piece of it is creating opportunity inside the organization. And that's what Josh just said. He's got 2 team members who both grossed, and they really don't have expenses because Josh is paying all the expenses. He's got 2 team members that both grossed over 200,000 last year. He said, I have a plan for them. I have a plan for them. You know, as she shared, multiple businesses. Some of those businesses in the past I fronted the money for. Is that
Absolutely.
true? Why did I front the money for some of the businesses you currently own?
Well, because you always, if you support me, then that goes back to you and for that as well. So it's a smart investment for you. But also that creates, you know, a lot of these contracts that you and I have or other people on your, it's also a contract to stay in business longer. So, you know, if you go into business with someone, I'm obviously committed to that who's investing into me. And then also there's actually a contract to it. So if I leave earlier, then I have to give up those shares, right? So there's a lot of different ways to show commitment to that. But also, I mean, just humans. I think that we hire anything that can walk, talk, breathe, and eat, and half the time licensed. Not you guys. Stop hiring unlicensed agents. We'll get to that later. If we have time, humans that we want to be in business with, and the more that you invest in them, they get back to you.
Well, perfectly said. And I'll add to it. Katie, you have made me a truckload of money, period. A truckload of money. I'm not shy to say it. You're one of the privilege of being in business with in my 47 years on this planet. And you have made me a lot of commas and a lot. You just
steak, so I'm totally okay with a nice dinner.
Right, let's call it like it is. Your skills have brought money into my organization. The only next natural step is to into an organization that you can start. Or I could be selfish, but if I'm sorry, you would leave my organization. I never invest money into people until they brought in a significant into the organization. So I could move you up from showing agent to buyer's agent. I could move you up from buyer's agent to listing agent. I could move from listing agent to direct you up from director of sales to expansion. I could move you up to just bought a building and you're amazing. How would you like 10% of the building? Right? But and that's what you're saying. You got, if I give you 10 building I just bought, just got funky, perfect. I'm in one of those rooms. Make no mistake, you're going to get the profits of that building every month, but you're not going to get the shares vested for 5 years. So that also becomes a retention.
Yeah, brilliant.
But that's not going to be the only building I buy you. You keep crushing it for the next 5 years, we'll repeat the process. So retention is really easy. It's actually incredibly easy. It's just really hard to get your brain around. You've got to treat the people in your world as more important than your own personal mission. And the moment you do that, you'll stop losing the vast majority of your good people. You'll still lose some here and there, but the vast majority will stay with you forever.
Well, and Megan, as during this time, like, what have you done recently for your team? Right? We're in a pandemic right now. Have you, Craig the other day, I mean, talk about being a good leader. One of his admins was just her funk was just there. She was just tired, and you could see it on the Zoom calls. And literally, without any hesitation, he secretly there's a town nearby that is it's opening up and getting pedicures, and bars are open, and without even keeping up with her spouse. Like, by the way, that's a hint right there. He knows her spouse and can set that up, and babysitters, knows that she has kids. And I mean, these are strong relationships. And his team, like, he set up a date night and wine tour and a break. And by the way, we saw her energy on Monday. I literally jumped back, like she was a new woman. And that's the commitment that you have to your team. I mean, this isn't just like, oh, I'm hiring leverage, I'm giving this piece away. Like, you have to invest into people. And I think this is the right room to really hound in on that. This is the most important part, because they're going to love your database like it's theirs. They're going to add to it because they care about your profit. And I think that's kind of hard to understand, is that, like, Craig, you're talking about how much money I've made you. Some people kind of cringe, like, she's on the call, like, did she get it? It's like, hey, I want to just, like, every day I think of Craig's business as mine. Like, I want to add more zeros to that, because again, I know he's going to, and me and my family. So I think,
to be clear, is I've seen your beautiful home. I've seen your beautiful rental.
100%.
I've seen the businesses you own. I saw the golf cart. Who goes and buys a golf cart in a pandemic? You do. To just drive around your neighborhood. And like, financially, if you're buying a golf cart in a pandemic, like, it's a win-win relationship is my point. But it starts with you've got to be above average successful in my organization. And the moment you do that, I start investing the money you brought into the organization back into helping you. I want to move on to one other topic. If there's any that have come up, Katie, interrupt me, but I want to talk about listings. Prior to hitting listings and wrapping up, is there anything that you want Josh and I cover?
Why don't we lead into that, because it's kind of the last ones will be about that.
Okay, so
can I make one quick comment around what you just said that I think was a lesson that took me a while to learn, is particularly for this group, is generally what attracts someone to your team is not what keeps them on your team. So they're going to feel like they're attracted to your team because of one thing, but over time, the leadership and the opportunities are what's going to keep them there. My knee-jerk reaction earlier on in my career, when people left my team, my knee-jerk reaction was that person was a con artist. They tricked me to think they were talent in the interview process, but then they didn't show up and they left. They're now non-talent. That was my failure as a leader. Anytime a talented person leaves your organization, it's generally due to one of two things. You fail to help them achieve what they expected to achieve within you, or they don't see a pathway to where they want to go in your organization. If they don't see those two things after they've entered the ability of losing them at some point is very high.
Thank you, Marcus. This is why I want you on the call. Beyond, if I respect you so much as a leader, and the failures you've made, just like Josh and I, is why we're actually having some good wins now. And you want to share those, both sides of that with the group's amazing. So here's the final topic, and then Katie's going to talk a little bit about coaching, and the final topic I want to hit is listings. So around the country, the market is incredibly hot during a pandemic. Why?
People still need to move.
People need to move, and is there an abundance of homes for sale or a shortage?
Shortage.
There's a shortage. Inventory has been low for years, and inventory is lower now than it was pre-pandemic. Most parts of the country, there's a 25 to 50% drop in listings hitting the markets in most parts of the country over the last 60 days. Crazy is we're sitting here first. This is when all of the listing market, I mean, there's some exceptions to that in some vacation areas, but for the vast majority, there's an arc, and the vast majority of listings hit somewhere between May and August. And we've been in a pandemic. So not only are they not hitting, but there's less hitting than pre-pandemic. Like, listings are way down. My personal prediction is we're going to see an incredible spike of listings in the next 4 years. There's a group of people that will not sell. There's another group of people that wanted to get on the market in May, saying they held off because of contamination in their home. They held for various reasons, but they've got a need, as Katie said, they still want to move, they want to buy and sell. So if I can challenge anybody on this call to get a scoreboard up right now on your cubicle office, wherever you're working, and to write a number on it. Josh, what would your number be? How many listings is your organization going to take in June?
In June?
Yep.
20.
20, fantastic. That's the target. Awesome. Well, 33 days left to hit that target. Let's make a really, really big, audacious, scary listing goal, and then let's go out and start doing the activities. So Josh, you and I got to today. What do you think some of the opportunities are now for getting listings?
The haven't met side. So canceled's the next one. I do feel like canceled hired maybe 2 years, 3 years back, 4 years maybe, put their home on the market and not super motivated, maybe thought the market would go up forever. And I think now this may get their attention just enough to come back, maybe lower the price and sell now for what they had it listed for before. The 50-50 I talked about is huge, and I'm working with most of the coaching clients, is the haven't met business. We talked about the 80% in the middle that doesn't go back to the same agent. And I think that's what we're all fighting for right now. But I think a lot of people have databases that are a lot of the same demographic. So if your demographic gets hit, like if you're a higher end agent and that business locks up and you don't have a lever for haven't mets right now, bad news for you. Bad news. So the circle prospecting, door knocking, that's a little touch and go with open houses, but I'd say the haven't met business, some type of lever there is going to be huge.
I agree. I look at our market in Portland. The first month of the pandemic, there's like 500-600 people that canceled their listing in our MLS. 500 or 600, Marcus, and they didn't cancel because they don't want to sell. They canceled because there was a worldwide pandemic and they didn't want strangers coming in their house. Well, that group of canceled right now is to get a phone call from us saying incredible low. Without exaggerations, we're putting on the market or getting multiple offers. And here's the good news. There was way less people coming through. Pre-pandemic, a red hot listing in my market had 30 or 40 people show up in the first 5 days. Now it's got 6 or 7 or 8 people show up, but we still get 5 offers. You get way less people coming through. You get the same, because by the way, if you're a buyer in a pandemic, are you motivated? Say yes. You're motivated. If you're out there looking at homes, motivated. So I believe there's less buyers, there's less inventory. I want to get in touch with that group of people with their house off the market pre-pandemic. I want to get really, really clear in my database. Brought up luxury. Right now, cool. So who am I targeting? All of my clients that work at Nike and Intel, saying, guys, you guys are still gainfully employed. They've done 0 layoffs. And I'm seeing houses that used to be $1.1 million and inventory is stacking up. And I'm guessing that a couple of those sell to sell. If you want to get a really good deal, let's go make some lowball offers on $1.1 million properties. Not targeting listings, but I'll take $1.95 million escrow all day long. On the other side of it, I'm seeing people that have houses in the $500,000 and $600,000 range. Virtually every one of them is getting multiple offers. And so, Josh, play this out, right? Let's go to you and Dana a couple years ago. You've got or Katie, is you guys have your first child, you're doing well financially, you're moving up in your careers, and you own your starter home. Hello? Ring, ring. Josh, Katie, it's Craig Rieger with XYZ Realty. How the heck are you guys?
This is weird. Katie, go.
I'm sorry. Go, Craig.
Katie, it's Craig Rieger. How's it going? Good. So a few years ago, I know we've stayed in touch, and I saw your baby's, 2 years old now? That's amazing. I don't know if you and Derek are interested, but I'm guessing the value of your home that I sold you at $300 is probably up to $450 just 4 or 5 years later. There's an opportunity for you to sell that property, get multiple offers, and maybe even sell it for 10, 20, 30,000 above asking. It's a red hot market. And if you guys have any desire to buy a house at 700 or 800, that market is really slow. So I just want to let you guys know that there's an opportunity to sell for top dollar and go and beat up somebody at 800 where it's a slow market. You could win on both sides. Would that be of interest to you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or you could say, no, I don't care. But as long as I'm making those phone calls every single day and finding the opportunity in my market, I'm going to dominate listings in June. I'm going to put a lot of homes in escrow. Same thing for condo market. So Josh, let's pretend you're over the age of 60. Ring, ring.
Hello.
Josh, Craig Rieger, how are you?
Doing well. How are you?
Good, really good. Hey, I don't know about downsizing at some point. I know you've got some home, big yard, lots of square footage, probably the great over I'm playing, but I wanted to share with you there's an opportunity in the market. Right now, at the price range of your home, I would pick multiple offers if you went to open market. But Josh, our market in Portland is dead. I mean, like dead in the water. Inventory is stacking up. Sellers are doing price reductions. So I just want to throw it out there. If there's ever a time you consider downsizing, I would let time I've seen in the last decade.
Wow, thanks, Craig.
Yeah, talk it over with Dana. If you have any questions, let me know. I'll send you guys an email as well. Right? I'm not attached to convincing Josh to sell his home and buy a condo. March 2 is every single day for an hour looking for the opportunities in my market and having these conversations.
These conversations are beautiful because even in the eyes, that client's stock in Craig Rieger just went up, right? That may turn in a referral. It may turn maybe they want to downsize in a year, but it's still a win for you, even in the event they don't want to move, because their value of the relationship with you.
And if you give value, they will repeat it. That's what I love about that type of a message. He tell his neighbors it will come up in the next week or two in a conversation. So if you provide value, they'll repeat it. One thing I want to add on that daily huddle, Craig, is I just heard you identify opportunities in the market, and in those huddles in the morning, we're going, who do you know that is in this bubble? Yes. And that's who we're going to attack. Yes. And when things, we do little challenges within our team. About half of the listings that we take, we sell in-house. And it's like, hey, we've got this listing coming up. It's going live in a week. And I can just see them, their wheels are spinning. Like, who do I have that's a buyer that I can call and try to sell this? Right. So really being intentional about what we're doing. And it starts with identifying.
It's beautiful. And the one thing to keep in mind is, 6 months ago, every one of your clients was an expert in real estate because they watched Property Brothers and had an HGTV subscription, right? You'd call to make a connection with them, and they'd want to tell you how good the market was because they've been watching these shows. Well, we're in a different market now where a lot of people are sitting in uncertainty. They're frozen. They don't know. They're looking for that guide that we want to be, and taking that off being specific with it. Because just asking, do you have a real estate need right now? They don't know. Because they don't know the opportunities that might seem obvious to us. They are not obvious right now. So I think it's so important to take the message out instead of waiting for them to ask the question.
Marcus, you're so right. One is you're right about Property Brothers. And by the way, you got good hair. You're a good looking guy. If you ever need an agent, I think we could get you your own TV show. Number two is we got a referral last week, and I personally fielded the call, and she's like, Craig, you're referred to me by Brian Sullivan. He's my boss. Is it a good time to sell? And I said, well, let me ask you a couple. One, where do you live? Southwest Portland, she said. I said, that's a good market. Number two, what do you think the value of your home is? And it was in fourth quarter, we figured it was around 500. And I was like, based on that, it is an incredible time to sell. Now, she told me her house was at $1 million. It's sellable, but you may not like. She had no idea what was going on in the market because we're in a pandemic. But 4 months ago, she knew it was a red hot market. We've got to be the experts, and we've got to relay that message, Marcus, every single day to our sphere, our database. If you choose to cancel hired, circle prospecting. There's a lot of people with uncertainty because they don't know that the HGTV shows haven't caught up with a program yet called Selling in the Pandemic. So we've got to create our own television show for that and the groups. And those scripts that I went over with you, my team and I are using every single day. But I want to give clarity, and I said it earlier, I am not attached to the outcome. I'm not like, well, geez, it'd be really unfortunate if you don't take it. I don't care if Josh says yes or no. I'm attached to making sure I have 5 or 10 of those questions every day. And to your point, Marcus, he's going to share it. He's going to be on some virtual bunco group tonight, and he's going to share it with his old bunco friends and tell them the opportunity, and I might get a referral out of it. I cannot lose if I do that. But it starts with every single morning opportunities in my markets. And then as Josh said, I've got the team huddle. Individual agents, you can have a team huddle by yourself. A team still, you can huddle with yourself every morning, say, where's the opportunities in the market? Who am I going to call? And then share it, and then call a group of people and share them.
Could you demonstrate a one-person huddle, please?
Yeah, I would say, okay, CEO Craig, finding opportunities in the market. And then CEO Craig would tell buyer's agent Craig, buyer opportunities in the market are above 800. Buyer agent Craig, who do you know you could call that might want to buy a home above 800? And then CEO would say, good job, Craig, buyer's agent. Craig would say, okay, what are the best opportunities for listings in the listed? Josh is beating himself. I'm not seeing him. What are the best opportunities in the market for sellers? And Craig would say, anybody, anywhere under 500. And then Craig would say, okay, well, who do we know that's under 500? And I'd call them. So that's it. It'd be, all I would have to do is this person would have to hold these people accountable. It's no different than you're doing with individual people. I would just put on my different hats. Are 2 people during that rant, so I better wrap up here. Katie, how do we get a coach? Because we do own a coaching company and we want to coach and we're damn good at it. You want to share that?
Yeah, Craig and all you guys have been awesome. What I'm hearing from all this is right? Like I'm looking at this from different eyes of you guys are talking about accountability, leadership, finding talent, a virtual assistant, like all is overwhelming, especially if, a lot of these, you guys in this production range, like you're doing it yourself or you're doing things you shouldn't be doing. And so then to add on leadership or hiring and training, my mind is like spinning thinking about this. So honestly, this is where it goes in. Craig has devoted, has over 20 years in this, sold all his major companies so that we can pour into coaching and giving back to agents because that's our passion. So we hire coaches like Josh, and you guys have gotten a little taste of that. But what we do is we want to diagnose your business, figure out what's going on. Do you need a VA? Do you need to hire someone? What does that look like? And then not only just identify it, create a plan around it, and then hold you accountable to it. And that's what coaching is, right? I mean, during pandemics and everything going on, it's that weekly stable you to slow down and give you those next and so I think that so the next step for this, and I'm going to offer this to this group since we have such large production on this call, if you have 3 or more licensed agents on your team, Craig and Josh, don't cringe for this, you can get 1 hour free of a team diagnosis. So this means, and by the way, this is with Craig and Josh. So if you text me, I just put my number on there. Again, you have to have 3 or more licensed agents, so your bigger team. We just want to ask you questions, dive deep on your business and see what do you need holes, whether it's again, this isn't a sales pitch to get a coach or hire even Marcus' company or a different one. It's just saying like, we are going to give you a free hour of what does your team look like? What do you need? What are you missing? What are your blind spots? So if you want to text me that 503-2. But otherwise, you guys, if you're looking for coachability to move forward, and in times, especially like right now, email my link up there for my calendar link, and it's an assessment. So again, this is no obligation. I'm going to dive deep into this and just make sure we have the right coach for you. We are really about making sure that you get what's best for you, and we have the right person for you and match you up with them. And then it's a 3-month commitment. We really ask months because you can't get abs by going to the gym 2 or 3 times, right? So we want to make sure you can start seeing results after 90 days. And if it's a good partnership both ways, then we want to continue forward from there. So easy, no obligation. Email me, set up a 20-minute calendar invite, and we'll go from there.
Katie. Yeah, I like coaching the 10, 20, 50, $100 million producers because when you pull the curtain back, respectfully, they're normally a disaster. And I can only say that from experience because I was, well, what they are is they're they're amazing. They're incredible. But the systems they're lacking and what's going on is they're pretty messy, and the kids are mad because they're missing soccer games. And we like helping people. I like help production, but what I really like is when we help people go from 12 million to 75 million, and at 50, 60, 70 million, they're saying, Greg, more days than not, more months than not, I've got way more balance at 75 million than I ever had at 20. that's the reason I opened this company. So text Katie, check out Marcus's company. Tanya, you're freaking amazing. If I didn't like Marcus so much, I'd try to steal you. Josh Cooley, I love you, brother. Everybody have a good week.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Guys, have a great one.